Hey everybody, I'm back with some updates on what I've been reading in the last week and a half. I don't even know. And I've been reading a lot of different things. And I don't have most of them physically because I either got them from the library or listened to them on audio, or I already unhauled them. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. The first book that I read since The Night and the Moth, I believe, is Perfume and Pain. And this one is a queer sapphic story. And honestly, I don't remember much about it. It's by Anna Dorn. I think I gave it 3 stars. What is that book about? Perfume and Pain. It was just basically a sapphic book about this woman and her messy relationships. And she's a writer, but she hasn't written anything in a while. Or she's a writer and she's in the middle of maybe getting a book deal, and she's kind of messy, so that is affecting her getting published. And it's basically just about her messy love life and relationships. And I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. I ended up giving that a 3 stars. So that is Perfume and Pain. The next book I read, I loved, which is Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. And I absolutely loved that book. I thought it was so cute. I thought the characters in it were adorable. That book is about a paladin whose god dies, and it says like what happens after, a holy night's god dies, and about them trying to move on with their lives. And he meets this girl who is a woman who is a perfumer, and there is also a sort of murdery mystery kind of thing, but that's more to the side. The main point is their cute little love story interactions, and it's super cute. It's kind of cozy fantasy, and it's T. Kingfisher, and she always does such an amazing job with her books. I love her voice and her writing. And yeah, so that is Paladin's Grace, and I gave it 5 stars. Yeah, so the next book is Feast While You Can by Michaela Clement, I believe. And Clements, I believe. And this one I ended up only giving a 2 star. I found it really, really hard to get through. I found the writing to be really curt and I guess succinct, sort of. A lot of telling, not showing. The main plot of the story is between these 2 women, and they're in a small town. And then there's this sort of eldritch horror, maybe in a cave, that is haunting or possessing some of the characters, or mainly one character, and they're having to deal with that. But I didn't really like it. I thought that it really did focus mostly on the relationship between those 2, and I was not convinced of their relationship really that much at all. It seemed really just physical to me and not emotional at all. And it was messy because one of the women was in the main characters was with her brother, I guess, previously, and they were in a serious relationship, and she caught her with a woman, and so that's why her and her brother broke up. So for them to be together, it's really messy. So that's what the book is about, but again, it didn't really work for me. I gave it 2 stars, and that is Feast While You Can by Michaela Clements. Then I listened to Cassandra in Reverse by Holly Smale on audio. It was available on Libby, so I scooped it up and listened to it. I thought that one was cute. It is about a woman who feels misunderstood by most of the world, and she has a really, bad day, and then all of a sudden she discovers that she can jump back in time and kind of fix all the mistakes and make people understand her better. And I thought it was cute. I only ended up giving it 3 stars. I thought it dealt with some cool topics, but the way it kind of went in a weird direction towards the end that I wasn't completely on board with, but it was cute. I gave it 3 stars. So that is Cassandra in Reverse. And then I read, actually have this one. I read Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Wang. I actually has still not read Natural Beauty, which I do have on my bookshelves. And people have said that that one's even better, but I did enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars. It kind of covers a lot more ground than I thought it was going to. It delves into like technology and, you know, artificial intelligence, some, but not as much as I thought it was going to. It's about these 2 women in the art world and their struggles with that, with up and coming technologies coming out. It's set in like the not too distant future because technology and sort of like a Black Mirror kind of esque episode, but it has to do with like identity and I don't know, like people acting as gods and cloning and many other things. So there's like and trauma and how like people deal with their trauma and how like technologies can have you heal from. So there's just like a lot of different like things in this, and I think that was my only qualm with it, was that it seemed like a lot and it lacked a little bit of a focus for me, but I did actually still end up really liking it. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. So that's Immaculate Conception by Ling Ling Wang. And then the last book I'll cover in this video is The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. So read from Brandon Sanderson. Trust in the Emerald Sea. I've read Elantris. I've read the first Mistborn, and I read the first 2 books in this trilogy, which is what's it? Well of Ascension is the second one, and the first one is, I forget. It's something that makes you feel like it's not the first one. Everyone just calls it Mistborn, but it's like the Final Empire, some weirdness. What is it called? See, it just says Mistborn in here, but that's not the name of the first one. The first one's actual name is, I was right, it was the Final Empire. Mistborn Era 1, the Final Empire is the first book, which is kind of confusing to me, but that is what he named it. So yes, in the Mistborn books, I'm not going to tell you too much because this is obviously the 3rd book, but it's a high fantasy world where there are people called Ska, and then there are people that aren't Ska, which I don't know what they're called, nobles maybe. And Ska are the lower class, and they're the working class, and they basically never have enough food to eat. They're always hungry, you know, they're treated poorly. Classic fantasy. And there are some people in this world who, if they ingest certain metal alloys, that they have powers, and those are called mistings, and they usually only have one metal that they can burn. And then there's Mistborn, who are extremely rare, that can use all the different metals. So this book is about Vin, who I believe is in like a thieving ring in the beginning of the book, and she is discovered by a man named, oh no, what's his name? Oh, Ellen Venture. No, that's her love interest. Who's the person she has? So, well, I remember every single part of these books. Don't you worry. What is his name? I cannot. Yeah, so Vin gets discovered by Kelsier, who is also Mistborn, and he kind of trains her to use all her powers, because at the time she didn't really know she was Mistborn, but she knew that she could use some metals. So he discovers that she is a misting, and the nobles want to basically, anytime they find out that someone has these powers that isn't noble, they get taken and killed by whatchamacallums. See how I'm remembering everything I read in this book? Anyway, they get taken by the Lord Rulers. It popped into my brain. They get like hunted down by the Lord Ruler, who is the ruler of this world. and they are called the regulators. I remember. And then there's even more powerful people that hunt down missings that are called inquisitors, and they're very creepy and powerful. So I read the first book and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was amazing. I thought the world was like cool and different and not like anything I had read before. And I loved Vin, and I loved all like the different characters, and definitely found family in here. And I thought it was super fun. And then after this one, in book 2, I liked it a little bit less, but I still liked it. I still enjoyed it. I thought the ending, I was like, oh, wow. You know, I thought it was good. Then this one, I only ended up giving 3 stars. I liked it. It's the final book in a series, but if a final book in a trilogy is only 3 stars, it's probably not the best for me. And I found a lot of it boring. And I know that the Brandon Sanderson fandom, you know, they say that the last 75 is the Sanderlanche, and that part was more entertaining, but there's a lot of things that get added in this one that are kind of like convoluted. Like, you have the metals, and then the metals are all different powers, and then there are things that possibly could be done to other people with metals that don't have powers to make them have powers, and then the Lord Ruler created other creatures, and then they have certain powers, and they all have their own history, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I still liked it. I thought the ending was okay, not great. So I would give the series as a whole 4 stars, but the first one, loved it, amazing. And you could even stop at the end of the first one if you wanted to. I honestly am trying to remember what happened at the end of the first one, and I believe I do, and I do think you could stop at that one. Obviously it would be a cliffhanger, but I mean, all fantasies are in a way cliffhangers, because, you know, say you overthrow a government, there are consequences to that. Someone has to lead. So, and then after you get through the consequences of maybe overthrowing a government, then there's always going to be some conflict. You know, that's just life. So this is The Hero of Ages, Mistborn Era 1, Book 3, and by Brandon Sanderson, of course. And I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, so those books that I just spoke about were the books that I read in the last 7 days, because I'm a crazy person. And I have lots of books and I love to read. So if you would like to hear more from me, you know, I'm figuring this all out. I haven't videoed or filmed myself in a really long time, so I have to get back into the habit of it, and the lighting in my house is awful. So we're just gonna have to do it, which I appreciate everybody watching. So thank you, and I'll see you next time in maybe a vlog.